I've been wrestling with this idea lately.
Mm-hmm.
That moment when a simple truth about how our minds work just clicks.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, why didn't anyone tell me this sooner? Does that resonate with you? Is that universal?
Oh, absolutely. That kind of flash of clarity when some insight about yourself or maybe the world just suddenly falls into place. Yeah.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other essential information we might be missing out on? Stuff just waiting to be unpacked.
Exactly. Waiting to be unpacked.
Well, that's perfect because that's precisely our mission today. We're doing a deep dive into those fundamental but maybe overlooked insights into how our minds and bodies really work.
Mm-hmm.
And our source for this journey is Dr. Julie Smith's really illuminating book, Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? Great title.
It really is. And look, this deep dive, it isn't therapy exactly, but it's absolutely packed with practical life skills.
Life skills, I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, think of them as, I don't know, incredibly powerful tools. Tools to help you navigate difficult times and, genuinely flourish.
So it's about proactively maximizing mental health, like you would with, say, physical health, nutrition, exercise.
Precisely. It's about building that robust internal system before things go wrong, not just reacting when they do.
Okay. So what can you, the listener, expect from our deep dive today?
Well, we're hoping to bring some much-needed clarity to emotional experiences and, crucially, give some clear, actionable guidance on what you can actually do about them.
Right. And hopefully we'll weave in some surprising facts and some relatable examples to keep things interesting.
Yeah, keep you hooked. It's all about building that self-awareness, building resilience, not just so you can cope when you're struggling, but so you can really, truly thrive.
Okay, so you set the stage. Where do we start unpacking these tools? Especially for something like low mood. It's so easy to feel like it's, a personal malfunction, isn't it?
It is, and that's exactly the place to start. Look, everyone has low days, mood fluctuation, totally normal.
Okay.
But the key insight here, the real shift, is that low mood is often more about unmet needs than some kind of brain malfunction or a fault in your personality.
That's a huge shift.
Yeah.
Because we often think of mental health as just in the mind, isolated.
Right, but it's more like an entire ecosystem. Your feelings are created by this constant, intricate feedback
A
loop.
feedback loop involving what exactly? Can you give an example? Like, how does bad sleep fit in?
Absolutely. Take sleep. If you're consistently sleep deprived, your body state is compromised. That directly impacts your thoughts. Maybe you're more irritable, right? More negative self-talk.
Makes sense.
Then that can affect your relationships. Maybe you snap at someone. And if you're also feeling isolated or not getting fresh air, basic lifestyle stuff, all these things interact.
Ah, okay.
They feed into each other, creating a very real, tangible, downward spiral of low mood. It's not abstract, it's a cycle.
So if it's this whole web, this interconnected thing, the first step has got to be awareness, right? Noticing how these factors play together.
Exactly.
But how do you do that in the moment when you're kind of caught up in it?
Well, it often starts with hindsight. You look back and think, oh, okay, that's what was going on.
Right, reflecting after.
But with practice, you build that muscle. You start noticing these interactions as they happen. And that's where the real opportunity for change opens up.
Okay.
So we encourage you, the listener, to ask yourself with curiosity, not judgment, when I feel this way, what's my body doing? What am I thinking? What urges am I having right now? Become a detective of your own inner world.
A detective. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, building on that, let's talk mood pitfalls. Those thoughts, those actions that actually make things worse. I know for me, when discomfort hits, my brain just wants the quickest fix possible.
That's completely natural. It's the brain's default.
Yeah.
Discomfort arises, seek immediate relief, and this often leads to numbing or distraction, doesn't it? Things like maybe too much alcohol, food, endless TV, scrolling social media for hours.
Guilty is charged on the scrolling sometimes.
We all are. And while they give that instant relief, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a depper issue. They can make things much worse long-term by stopping you from actually dealing with the root cause.
And then there are those thought biases. They feel so incredibly real when you're in the thick of them, like facts.
They really do. And it's important to remember these biases, they're normal. Everyone experiences them. But they definitely get more common, more intense when our mood dips or we're stressed.
Okay, so, like, what are some common ones?
Well, there's mind reading. You assume you know what others are thinking. Like, she hasn't called back. She must be angry with me.
Ah, yes. Jumping to conclusions.
Exactly. Or overgeneralization. You take one negative event and blow it up. I messed up that presentation. My whole career's over.
Oh, I've done that. Burnt dinner last week. Genuinely thought for 5 minutes I was doomed to fail at everything forever.
See, perfect example. Our brains are amazing amplifiers sometimes. Another one is egocentric thinking, assuming everyone sees things exactly like you do. He was 5 minutes late. He obviously doesn't care about me at all.
Right. Projecting your own values onto others.
Then the mental filter, you zoom in only on the negative, ignoring anything positive, like getting 50 positive comments and obsessing over the one negative one.
That sounds familiar.
And those musts and shoulds, relentless, unrealistic expectations, perfectionism, I must always look perfect, I should never make mistakes.
Which leads straight into all or nothing thinking, doesn't it? Black and white.
Absolutely. If I don't get 100%, I'm a total failure. No gray areas allowed.
Yeah.
And emotional reasoning, I feel it, therefore it must be true. Like, I feel incredibly guilty, so I must be a terrible parent.
Oh, that's a tricky one.
It is. And finally, labeling. Making these big global statements about yourself based on temporary feelings or actions. I am an anxious person. Not, I feel anxious right now, but I am anxious. That becomes identity.
So, if we can't just stop these thoughts from popping up, our brains are just going to do that. What can we do? How do we change our relationship with them?
The power is in changing the response. That's key. We need to learn to see them for what they are. Biased interpretations, stories, not absolute facts.
Okay.
Using distanced language helps a lot. Try saying, I'm having the thought that, instead of, I am. Creates a bit of space, you know?
Right, like you're observing it.
Exactly. And actually writing them down, that can be incredibly powerful. It gets them out of your head, onto paper, helps you see them more objectively, almost like they belong to someone else. Gives you perspective.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know what makes things worse. Let's pivot. Things that help. And a big one here is getting that distance you mentioned.
Yeah, what we call metacognition, simply observing your own thoughts. There's a great analogy in the book using Jim Carrey in The Mask.
Oh, yeah. Tell us.
Well, when the mask is right on his face, it controls him completely. But when he pulls it away, holds it at arm's length, it loses its power over him.
Ah, nice.
Thoughts are like that. They're just ideas, suggestions. That little bit of distance, it lets you see them for what they are, reduces their grip.
That's a really compelling way to think about it. And then there's mindfulness, which sounds like, grabbing the spotlight of our attention.
That's a perfect metaphor. Your attention is like a spotlight. You can't stop thoughts from arriving on the stage, so to speak. They just pass through.
Okay.
But you can consciously choose where you point that spotlight. It's not about blocking thoughts. That doesn't work. It's about intentionally directing your focus away from unproductive rumination.
So mindfulness practice builds that skill, like driving lessons for the mind.
Exactly like driving lessons for the mind. It builds the ability to observe thoughts without getting hooked, without judgment, reducing their power. And it can be simple things, focusing on your breath, physical movement, asking, what would I do if I was at my best right now? Or really engaging in a conversation, human connection.
And I've heard about gratitude practice being surprisingly powerful. Seems simple.
It truly is. Deceptively simple, profoundly effective. Just taking a few moments each day, maybe writing down 3 things you're grateful for, it actively trains your brain.
How so?
It trains it to seek out and focus on pleasant emotional states, on the good stuff, however small. It's like building a mental muscle that gets stronger over time. It can literally shift your brain's default setting.
Okay, let's talk about turning bad days into better days. It seems like a key piece here is letting go of perfectionism, embracing good enough.
Absolutely crucial. Perfectionism is often a recipe for paralysis, isn't it? We get so fixated on the ideal outcome that we end up doing nothing at all.
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Exactly. The focus should be on making good decisions, not perfect ones. Small, consistent actions are always the way forward, especially when mood is low. Consistency beats perfection every time.
And that inner voice, how we talk to ourselves, matters hugely, doesn't it?
It can be our harshest critic. But we have a choice. The advice here is crucial. Practice self-compassion, not self-criticism.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, for sure, but think about it. How would you talk to a friend who is struggling? You'd be kind, encouraging, supportive.
Yeah, of course.
Treat yourself the same way. And the research backs this up powerfully. Self-compassion, not criticism, is what genuinely boosts motivation and leads to better outcomes long-term. Build yourself up.
So understand the problem, be kind to yourself, and then shift focus. Look towards where you want to go.
Exactly. Once you have some understanding, consciously shift your focus towards the horizon. Where do you want to go? Not just what you want to avoid.
How do you make that concrete?
It involves visualizing desired emotions and behaviors. Tools like the hot cross bun formulation, which helps you map connections between a situation, your thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, and actions, can really clarify what a better day actually looks and feels like in practice. It gives you a tangible roadmap.
A roadmap. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, for this section, let's hit the basics. The
Oh.
mental health defense players. These are the things maybe we're tempted to skip over, but they're incredibly potent. And if you are tempted to skip this bit, it's probably even more important for you to listen.
That's so true, because these are often the first things to go when we're stressed or overwhelmed, yet they are absolutely foundational, starting with exercise.
Right, more than just physical health.
Way more. It's a potent antidepressant. It boosts dopamine, increases your capacity for pleasure, and the key is finding enjoyable ways to move. Small things. Dancing in the kitchen, a walk in nature, some gentle yoga, forget just aesthetic gains. Move for joy and well-being.
Okay. Next up, sleep. We know it's important, but it's often the first casualty of a busy life.
It is, and it profoundly impacts well-being. It's a two-way street too, isn't it?
Duh.
Poor mental health disrupts sleep, and poor sleep tanks mental health.
So practical tips.
Right. Vigorous exercise earlier in the day, not right before bed. Warm baths, get natural light first thing in the morning, dim lights, less screen time in the evening. Try to tackle worries during the day, write them down maybe. Focus on relaxation before bed, don't try to force sleep. And obviously watch the late caffeine and sugar.
Good reminders. And nutrition. You are what you eat applies to the brain too.
Absolutely. How you feed your brain directly influences how you feel your mood, your energy. Traditional diets, Mediterranean, Japanese, Norwegian, they have a strong evidence base. Lots of whole, unprocessed foods, healthy fats, whole grains.
Sounds daunting to change everything at once.
Oh, don't. The key is gradual, small changes, one thing at a time. Even one small shift can make a surprising difference over time.
Okay. Then routine. That probably became crystal clear for a lot of us during the pandemic lockdown.
It really did. Routine provides a sense of safety, predictability. That's grounding for us. Now, we also need variety, of course. It's a balance. But having some structure, even small anchors in your day, can have big positive ripple effects. Find a balance that works for you structure without being totally rigid.
And the last basic, human connection, feels almost obvious, but maybe we don't prioritize it enough.
We often don't. But the research is overwhelming on this. Genuine human connection is one of the most powerful tools we have for mental health.
Why is it so powerful?
It pushes back against isolation, provides vital social support, and giving support feels good too. It helps us recover from stress faster. And remember, connection doesn't always have to be deep, intense talks. Simple presence, sharing a laugh, just knowing someone's there, that can be incredibly impactful.
Okay, let's dive into our second segment, mastering action and overcoming challenges. Some big hitters here, starting with motivation. And there's a big myth we need to bust right away.
There absolutely is. Motivation. It's not some fixed trait you either have or don't have. It's not really a skill either. And you certainly can't rely on it to just be there when you need it.
So what is it then?
It's a feeling. And crucially, it's a feeling that often follows action rather than coming before it.
Okay, say more about that.
Think about the gym example. You feel energized, you feel good, you want to do more. Usually when you're on your way out of the gym, right, not always on your way in. The action itself generates the feeling of motivation.
Ah, that makes so much sense. So if you're sitting there waiting to feel motivated before you start something important,
You could be waiting a long time. The key is building the capacity to do what matters, even when you don't feel like it.
is there a difference between just procrastinating and something deeper, like in depression?
Yeah, that's an important distinction. Procrastination is usually about avoiding discomfort or stress. You know what you need to do, you just really don't want to face it right now. Anhedonia, though, which is common in depression, is more about the inability to feel pleasure, even from things you used to enjoy.
Okay.
But in either case, the core message holds. If something matters to you, if it could benefit your health or your life, don't wait till you feel like it. Do it anyway. Action first.
So how do we actually nurture motivation then? If we can't rely on the feeling, how do we sustain action?
Habit formation. That's the most reliable way. Make the new behavior ridiculously easy to start. Small. Consistent. Build those neural pathways until it's automatic, like brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation for that, do you?
No, thankfully.
Right. Also, rest and replenishment are vital for long-term goals. And not all breaks are created equal aim for true rest. Fresh air, a hobby, connecting with someone. Not just more scrolling, which often drains us.
Good point. What about rewards?
Small, timely rewards can definitely help. They give you those little dopamine hits that drive further action. And pre-planning is smart too.
Pre-planning, like anticipating low points.
Exactly. Anticipate situations where your motivation might tank. Have a plan ready, like a mini crisis plan for how you'll navigate temptations or that can't be bothered feeling.
And finally, connecting it to identity.
Yes. This is powerful. Connect the actions to the kind of person you want to be. Frame it as, this is just who I am now. I'm someone who, that identity connection can sustain action even when feelings are really low. You're literally building the you want to be.
Okay, next big challenge, anxiety, facing the discomfort. And this brings us to that trap of avoidance. You mentioned the Leaning Tower of Pisa anecdote earlier.
Ah, yes. It's such a vivid illustration. Imagine you're up there feeling that intense vertigo, the fear. Your brain is screaming, danger, get down, escape.
Right, natural instinct.
Totally. But if you immediately flee, what does your brain learn? It learns leaving worked. That tower was dangerous and I escaped. It reinforces the fear.
So avoidance makes it worse.
Exactly. It maintains and often worsens anxiety because your brain never gets the chance to learn that you can actually cope with the discomfort, that the perceived danger isn't catastrophic. You have to experience it, maybe in small doses, to truly learn internally that it's okay. Avoidance prevents that essential learning.
So those little safety behaviors we use, always needing our phone, seeking constant reassurance, avoiding certain places, they actually keep us stuck.
Precisely. They offer instant relief, which is why we do them, but they prevent long-term resolution. Escaping situations, anxiously avoiding things, compensatory strategies like excessive checking or washing, constantly anticipating the worst, needing reassurance, relying on just-in-case things like medication or always having someone with you, they become crutches.
Crutches that stop us from building our own strength.
Exactly. They stop us learning that we are capable of handling it.
So in the moment, when anxiety feels overwhelming, what can you do right then and there?
Breathwork is incredibly powerful because it directly signals to your nervous system. Slow, deep breaths, especially focusing on a longer, maybe slightly more forceful out-breath, can calm the body down, tell your brain things are okay.
Any specific technique?
Square breathing is brilliant because it's simple and you can do it anywhere. Breathe in for a count of 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, repeat. Very grounding.
Okay, square breathing. What else?
Physical movement. Anxiety gears the body up for fight or flight, flooding it with stress hormones. Moving your body a brisk walk, jogging on the spot, even just pushing against a wall helps use up that energy, burn off those hormones, rebalance your system. It's great for prevention, too, making movement a regular thing.
What about the anxious thoughts themselves? Those swirling worries, they feel so convincing.
This is crucial, worth repeating. Thoughts are not facts. Anxious thoughts especially are often just guesses, theories, worst-case scenarios generated by an overactive smoke alarm system in the brain.
So same strategy as with low-mood thoughts. Get distance.
Yes. Practice getting distance. Use that distance language. I'm noticing I'm having the thought that, instead of, I know this bad thing will happen, write them down. See them objectively as separate from you.
And anxious thoughts have their own specific biases too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Catastrophizing is classic jumping immediately to the worst possible outcome. I have a headache, it must be a brain tumor. Or the Pisa example, I feel dizzy, I'm definitely going to fall off.
Right. What else?
Personalizing, making ambiguous things all about you. My friend walked past and didn't wave, they must hate me now. The mental filter, again, focusing only on perceived threats or negatives. And overgeneralizing, I felt awkward at that party, I'm socially incompetent and will never make friends.
This is where that Sydney Harbor Bridge proposal anecdote fits in, right? About the spotlight of attention.
It's such a powerful story, yeah. Picture it. Sydney Harbor Bridge, one couple is getting engaged. Pure joy, right? Focus entirely on that moment. Nearby, someone else might be having a full-blown panic attack, utterly convinced they're about to collapse. Focus entirely on their internal sensations of fear.
Same place, totally different experience.
Exactly. Same environment, radically different focus of attention. Our attention is a spotlight. What we shine it on gains power, feels more real, more important. What's left in the shadows fades.
So you can choose where to point it, even if anxious thoughts are there.
Yes. You can consciously choose to direct that spotlight away from the anxious thoughts, even if they're still on stage rumbling in the background. Focus on your surroundings, on a task, on a conversation. When your attention is elsewhere, those anxious thoughts lose their grip, their power over your emotional state. You are actively constructing your emotional experience by where you place your attention.
So we can cultivate a different kind of self-talk, a calmer internal coach.
Definitely. Think about how you'd coach a friend through anxiety. You'd be honest about the feelings, but also encouraging, supportive, focusing on their strengths, reminding them they can handle it. You wouldn't just jump in and rescue them. Aim for that calm, supportive internal voice for yourself.
And reframing helps too, shifting perception.
Hugely. Reframing a perceived threat as a challenge is a great example. Like the student facing a terrifying Viva exam, reframing the intense physical sensations not as panic, but as excitement, readiness for a performance. It doesn't deny the difficulty, but shifts the focus from fear to courage to capability.
And finally, linking back to values, making choices based on what matters, not just on fear.
Yes, this is about living a meaningful life despite anxiety. Make choices align with your deepest values. If you value connection, you reach out even if you feel anxious. If you value learning, you go to the class even if it feels scary. This builds a life driven by purpose, not just by fear avoidance.
Okay, the final challenge in this segment, fear of the inevitable, death anxiety. That's the ultimate uncertainty, isn't it?
It really is a deep, pervasive fear for us humans, whether we think about it consciously or not. For some, it's a direct worry about dying. For others, it kind of hides behind other fears, health anxiety, maybe panic attacks, certain phobias. It's the big unknown.
And the book suggests confronting this fear can actually be, paradoxically, a tool for living more fully. The physicality of death destroys us. The idea of death saves us. How does that work?
It's a powerful paradox, isn't it? Facing the reality of our mortality, even briefly, can be this incredibly profound catalyst for finding meaning and purpose in how we actually live right now.
How so?
Well, exercises like imagining your own funeral, not morbidly, but reflectively. What would you want people to remember? What truly matters in the life you're living? It can clarify values like nothing else, empowering you to make choices now that align with that. It sharpens your focus on living meaningfully today.
So the goal isn't to somehow eliminate this fundamental fear.
Yeah,
That seems impossible. It's more about acceptance.
precisely. Acceptance of death as a natural part of life and acceptance of the profound uncertainty of when. It's not about giving up or being morbid. It's about giving up the exhausting, futile struggle against an uncontrollable reality. And paradoxically, that acceptance frees up enormous energy to live more fully, more authentically, right here, right now.
How can people explore that safely?
Journaling about these feelings, these fears, can be really helpful. Or talking it through with a trusted friend, therapist, or spiritual advisor. A safe space to explore without judgment.
Okay, moving into our final segment, navigating relationships and life's endings. Starting with grief, which you describe as a natural process.
Absolutely. Grief is a completely normal, natural human reaction to any significant ending or loss. Not just death, though, that's obviously a huge one, but also the loss of a relationship, a job, a physical ability, a dream, a phase of life.
So the pain is expected. Emotional and even physical.
Yes, the pain can be incredibly intense, both emotionally and physically. It's the price of love, the cost of attachment, really. It's a testament to how much something or someone mattered.
It's definitely not neat or linear, right? We often hear about the stages of grief, but you say that's largely a myth.
It's a critical point. That idea of fixed linear stages, denial, anger, bargaining, etc., from Kubler-Ross's work with the terminally ill, it's been widely misunderstood when applied to bereavement grief. It can actually make people feel like they're grieving wrong if they don't follow the supposed stages.
So what's a better way to understand it?
Grief isn't about making the pain disappear or forcing yourself to let go. Trying to block it often causes more problems down the line. A more helpful model is the dual process model.
Dual process, meaning
Meaning we naturally oscillate, we swing back and forth between loss orientation, feeling the pain, crying, reminiscing, processing the loss and restoration orientation, distracting ourselves, engaging in new activities, rebuilding daily life, taking breaks from the pain.
So both are necessary. It's okay to distract yourself sometimes.
Absolutely necessary. You need periods of confronting the pain, but you also need periods of respite, of restoration to replenish your energy and adapt to the changes. It's a dynamic process, not a straight line.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And there's this incredibly powerful concept mentioned, grow around the wound. Can you
Hmm.
explain that? It really stuck with me.
It's a beautiful and accurate image, I think. It suggests that the wound of loss, the pain, doesn't necessarily shrink or disappear entirely. It remains part of you, part of your story.
Okay.
The work of grieving, then, isn't necessarily about making the wound smaller, but about building a new life, a life of meaning and purpose around it. You grow around the
So you
loss.
learn to live with it alongside it.
Exactly. You continue to remember, to feel connected to what or who was lost, but you also engage with life as it is now. The loss remains significant, but your life expands around it.
So the key is small steps and no timetable.
Definitely. Progress is often incredibly slow, almost imperceptible day to day, and there is absolutely no correct way or timeline for grief. Listening to your own needs moment by moment is vital.
What helps navigate the really intense waves?
Allowing yourself to express the feelings, talking, writing, crying, whatever works,
Yep.
and using those self-soothing skills we talked about earlier, breath work, movement, sensory grounding to help ride out the most intense waves of emotion without being completely overwhelmed. Be kind to yourself.
Okay. And finally, let's talk relationships. Described here as the core of a meaningful life. That feels huge, bigger than money or fame.
The research is remarkably consistent on this. Study after study, including some very long-term ones, points to the same conclusion. Healthy, supportive relationships are more crucial for our overall health, longevity, and happiness than money, career success, fame, even social class. They are fundamental to our well-being.
Wow. Yet there are so many myths floating around about relationships that can actually undermine them, can't they?
Oh, absolutely. These myths set us up for disappointment or make us think something's wrong when things aren't perfect.
Like what? What are some common ones?
Things like, relationships should always be easy. If you truly love each other, you'll never disagree. You should want to be together constantly. Healthy relationships have no conflict. Or that relationship success simply means staying together no matter the cost, even if it's deeply unhealthy.
Right. None of that sounds very realistic.
Exactly. Healthy relationships require consistent effort, clear communication, healthy boundaries, and crucially, the ability and willingness to repair conflicts and misunderstandings when they inevitably happen. They're built, not just found.
So if you want to improve your relationships, where's the starting point? You can't really change other people.
That's the key insight. The good news is, improving relationships genuinely starts with you. You can't force someone else to change, but working on understanding yourself, your own patterns, needs, reactions, has this incredible ripple effect. It changes the dynamic. You radiate that change outwards.
We often hear about attachment styles in this context. Can you briefly explain those and how they play out?
Sure, attachment styles, often categorized as anxious, avoidant, secure, or maybe disorganized, are basically patterns of how we relate to closeness and intimacy, patterns formed in our very first relationships with caregivers.
So they influence our adult relationships.
Profoundly. Someone with a more anxious style might crave closeness but constantly worry about rejection. Someone more avoidant might feel uncomfortable with too much intimacy or vulnerability, tending to pull away. Secure attachment involves feeling comfortable with both intimacy and independence. Understanding your own style and maybe recognizing patterns in others can provide huge insight. It helps explain reactions, yours and theirs, and allows for more compassion and effective navigation.
So beyond understanding styles, what's the actual work of building strong connections?
Well, it starts with that self-awareness, really understanding your own needs, your triggers, your boundaries. What do you need in a relationship? What can you offer?
Okay, why not?
Emotional responsiveness. This is about learning to turn towards each other, especially during difficult moments or conflict. It involves recognizing that often intense emotions, shouting, withdrawing, are actually bids for connection underneath. They're asking, are you there for me? Do I matter to you?
That requires managing your own reaction first, though, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to be able to self-soothe your own distress or defensiveness to be able to truly hear the need behind the difficult behavior and respond constructively.
And since conflict is normal, repairs must be essential.
Absolutely critical. Conflict isn't the problem. Inability or unwillingness to repair is. Healthy relationships involve repairing those ruptures. That means acknowledging feelings, taking responsibility, finding compromise, showing respect, focusing on the behavior, not attacking the person. It's about rebuilding trust and connection after a breach.
And finally,
Consciously cultivating appreciation and shared meaning. Actively notice and express what you admire and appreciate in the other person. Find common ground in your values and goals while also respecting differences. The sharing sense of purpose and mutual appreciation acts like a compass, guiding actions towards maintaining a flourishing, resilient connection.
Wow, what a journey. What a deep dive we've taken today. We've really unpacked an incredible toolbox, haven't we? Skills for low mood, anxiety, stress, facing mortality, grief, relationships.
It's a lot of ground covered. And it's so important to remember these are skills. They're not magic wands. Like any skill, they require practice, repetition, like building a muscle.
Right. It's the consistent small choices we make every day that build that resilience, that help us truly thrive, not just survive.
Exactly. Those small investments add up significantly over time.
So, as you, our listener, reflect on everything we've talked about today, here's a final provocative thought to leave you with. If our feelings are indeed constructed by our brain based on signals from our body, our thoughts, our actions, our environment,
Hmm.
then what new emotional experiences could you consciously choose to construct for yourself starting today by intentionally picking up and practicing some of these tools?
Yeah. What would it truly look like if you decided to invest in your mental health as consistently, as proactively as you might invest in your physical health? Not waiting until you feel unwell, but actively, intentionally striving to thrive. What might that look like day by day?